Welcome to the Beyond Sunday Morning podcast, where women of faith gather to talk about a life of love and service to Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Jen Avey. Our relationship with Jesus goes far beyond the tasks of a Sunday morning, so we wanted to create a space to have candid conversations with women who are following Christ every day and could offer each other encouragements in faith, life, ministry, and everything in between. Thank you for joining us. Let's see how today's conversation takes us beyond Sunday morning. Thank you for being willing to do this as we step into trying to record some conversations of encouragement for women that are serving, loving the Lord, and following after Him. I first was introduced to you as the daughter of missionaries who is now stepping into a missions opportunity herself. So that already put for me into a frame of reference like, oh, this is going to be a good story. So how did you come to faith?
Okay.
How in missionary kid, that kind of environment, how did you come to faith in the Lord?
So I was raised, in a Christian household, obviously. And so my parents were church planters in France. And so the church literally started in our living room. So I think ever since I was literally a baby, they would have Bible studies with students and things like that. And then basically my brother and I were the Sunday school.
It's in your home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're the only two kids because it's a student ministry. So, and there was another couple, Kent and Becky Good, who were there as well for the church plant. And so Becky taught us a lot of the Bible stories and things like that. So that had a huge impact for sure.
And your parents, the missionaries in France, were Paul and Elise Klawitter, just in case anyone didn't, know that by the name in the introduction. But
right. So that was definitely a huge part of it. But actually, so we were based in France, and then we would come back to the States every couple of years during the summer, because my brother and I were in school. But we would come back during the summer to visit, family, friends, supporting churches, things like that. And my parents would send us to camp, probably a week during the summer. And so I actually went to Camp Conquest a few times.
That's awesome.
And my earliest memory, at least, is Camp Conquest, bonfire, and I guess one of the counselors, talking about Jesus, and it's the first time that I remember hearing about Jesus as a personal God, not just God figure type, but really He died on the cross for you, for the entire world, but for you specifically. And so then after that, they said, if you want to pray with a counselor, just stay. Everybody goes back to their cabin or whatever. But if you want to stay. Somebody will pray with you. And so actually, I think that's where I gave my life to Christ. It was at Camp Conquest.
Shout out to Camp Conquest.
Awesome. So, which is really funny. But yeah, so I think that's.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that because I hear the language a lot of general God talk.
Yeah.
Even in our churches, I know I'm even guilty of it. I want a relationship with God, you know, how, all of this, are you hearing from God? What do you know about God? And the answer is actually the person of Jesus Christ. That's so cool. I love that you pointed that out. But that's how you came to faith. Your parents are in France. You're going back and forth. You're traveling. How did you then grow and develop to come and step into missions work yourself?
So I never thought I was going to be a missionary by any means. But there were hints, I guess, along the lines. But it's still a surprise to me. But so I gave my life to Christ. At Camp Conquest, I was probably 6 or 7 or something. And then I go back to France, and apparently, I was 8 years old, and I started a Bible club. Because
all 8-year-olds?
Yeah. No, because that's what, my parents are church planters. This is what you do. If you know Christ, you talk to Christ about people who don't know Christ. Like that's, So I started like a miniature Bible club. So I invited my friends, and then we had a woman from church who was doing, so this was when the church was bigger. And so, I mean, bigger as in like French numbers, like we were probably 30 people rather than, 4. But there was a woman who was doing Sunday school. And so my mom asked her if she was willing to do like a little Bible club with my friends. And so we did that like, I think maybe once a month or something. But yeah, so that was kind of the premises of it. But then I think as I grew, I got more and more shy about it because I got a lot of pushback from my friends, and especially like in high school. So in French school, we study philosophy. And for me, it was like 8 hours a week. So it was, heavy doses of philosophy. And I got a lot of pushback from my friends. And I remember like a couple conversations that were just really tough where like my friends would, say like, Elise, like, I don't get it. Like I was the only believer in my circles by any means. And so there was like, I know you're not stupid. I see you in class. I know your grades. Like, you're not stupid. How can you believe in something so unbelievable? Because to her, it was like, God is like fairies and magic and leprechauns. Like, it's the same degree of like belief or disbelief. And so it didn't make sense to her. And it just, to me, that was so hard to hear. And it was like, my friends don't accept who I am, in a sense, because that's at the core of who I am. And so if you don't accept that about me, then do you really know and love me for myself? Yeah. So I kind of stopped talking about, God and faith and things. And then I think, but it was still very personal. So I got baptized at 17, because to me it was really important, and it was a profession of faith publicly. And actually it was a pretty pivotal moment because a couple of my friends came from school, which I did not expect. And by the end, like, they came up to me in tears. And then one friend said, like, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't understand what it meant to you. And I will never again say that it's something I don't like about you, because I now see that it's who you are and why you're the way you are. So she said, it's not for me, but, I know that this is who you are, and so I love you for it.
That testimony of your perseverance, even as a young person, through that pushback, became something that broke through. That's really incredible.
Yeah. So then after that, I mean, there were ups and downs, and even in my faith, like I had moments of serious doubt, and I recommitted my faith, several times, I guess, as a
sometimes
student,
daily,
young adult.
Like, all right,
exactly. And then like bigger moments and whatever. But so then I started working, and I was working in marketing for a company, a major company.
In France? Or are you back in the States now?
No. So I stayed in France the whole time. Stayed in France, did my studies in France, got my MBA, and then started working in marketing for Michelin. So major company, good job, awesome. And so I stayed about 3 years, and at the end of like the 3 years, there were change in management and things, and I knew it was kind of time for me to, leave. And so I was looking for something. I was like, but I love my job. Like, I love the role. I love communications. I love marketing for so many reasons, but I want to do it for something that has meaning and has purpose. And God really opened the door then for me to work for a Christian nonprofit. There aren't many in France.
Are we still in France?
Yeah, exactly. There are basically like two major ones. And he just opened the door for that. And that to me was kind of my first steps into, okay, I'm not like, by no means am I in full-time ministry or anything else, but I'm working for a Christian organization. Yeah. And that to me was like super powerful. And it just completely changed my mind too about, I realigned a lot of things about what, work in a true Christian sense means and is supposed to be. And it's actually not about power and ego and money. Like, that's not what it's supposed to be like. Yeah, exactly. So that was a whole shift for me, and it was a shift of worlds. Anyway, and so I stayed about 6 years with them, and then COVID hit, and that changed a lot of things. And so then, anyway, I was in conversations with different people. I was on the Chateau board, the Chateau in Saint-Alban. Yeah, so that's a place that's dear to my heart as well, and that's a huge part of my faith journey. But I was on the board for that, and so I got I started talking with the director of that network, and so like missions. I mean, my parents are missionaries, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up with Encompass.
And you're in France,
and
so
I'm in France.
This is your community, your culture. This is
right.
I mean, very much not in the States raised and then going overseas. This is your life.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's always kind of like, I grew up with a missional mindset in a sense, but full-time ministry was like never for me because I feel like I didn't have the personality for it. Like I'm not super outspoken, super outgoing, you know, like street evangelism terrifies me. It's like not my thing.
All the boxes we put around what certain things have to look like in order to be legitimate, it's probably created in our own heads more than anything.
Right? Yeah. And so when it was, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step, I ended up talking with like different people from Encompass that I didn't necessarily know, and who started talking about like different projects and things like that. And at some point I was like, this is wild. Like everything that they're listing are things that I had either like studied, worked with already, or, you know, and the needs that I was seeing were needs that corresponded to my gifting, which was more like less kind of, you know, outgoing and more just like communications, marketing. How can we tell stories? How can we, you know, or like develop certain, I did project management. And so it's like, you know, it's, sometimes you just need those set of skills. And so it just started really forming a picture of actually, like, this would be an amazing fit. Like, this would be a perfect fit for who you are, what you love, what you know how to do.
There's an assignment with your name on it, and it's available. Do you want to take it?
So that's kind of, I mean, I guess the long story of just how I got into it. Of I never thought it was going to be for me, and it doesn't even correspond to what I picture as like missions, full-time ministry, missions work, but yeah, God had it all planned out. So,
and I love that picture too. I think my story is a little bit similar too, in just that the things that I just naturally walked into over time, available, open, not like closed off, but God just directing and using and giving opportunities where that could bless the church, where that could bless, you know, other believers. And then you look back and you go, I don't know why I did that for a season. I don't know why I had that going on. But now, a little bit down the road, all these things are coming together and the opportunities are there. And a testimony to how God must know us and see us and have a plan and a purpose for our lives.
I have so many like full circle moments, you know, like that, but just, I mean, if I can, like, the random story, but
I love a random story.
I was in college and I was doing I went into liberal arts because I couldn't just pick one. Like I had.
You didn't want to study philosophy?
Yes.
No more philosophy?
Actually, no. Philosophy was a big part of it, but yes. But so it was just like a lot of different classes, but we had, you know, philosophy, but history, geography, languages, things like that. And so the one year, I guess our geography class was solely focused on Central Asia throughout like the centuries, I guess. And I was like, what the heck? Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Very liberal arts education right there.
Right? And so the specificity, like the whole topic was like Turkish-speaking languages. Like, what the heck? So you're learning this stuff, and I'm like, okay, when am I ever going to hear about, like, you know, Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan again? Like, but whatever, you have to learn it, you know, and it's actually pretty interesting. And anyway, this whole, you know, the Silk Road and how that actually brought up Christianity, like that was a whole, anyway, it was a whole thing. But I was like, okay, like another useless thing that I'm learning that I'm never going to use again, whatever. Fast forward 10 years later, so I'm now like working with Encompass or coming on board, learning about all these projects, and end up going to Central Asia to visit my colleagues who are working in that area. And so we visited like the history museum
You're like, I know this.
In the capital. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know way too much about all of this. This is making too much sense. And I just can feel like those are the, you know, like God chuckling, being like, ha ha, See,
And
I knew it.
I love that too as a plug for like a broad education and exposure, because you just never know.
It comes up at some point. So.
Something. God can use all things, even geography, class to come full circle. I wanted to just ask you, I know a little bit about your story. You have a wonderful newsletter for those that want to follow along with your work and what you're doing, but the podcast sponsors Charis Women, an organization that I'm involved with heavily, and we've been doing women's conferences under this theme of delighted. Delight yourself in the Lord. He'll give you the desires of your heart. But we kind of talk about how there can be a disconnect there, because our experience in the faith is not one that most people would just say is skipping through the fields and delightful. Because there's moments of darkness, there's moments of disappointment, there's moments of real doubt and confusion, and yet there is delight from the Lord and in the Lord. But it's a process there, and you, as you stepped into your new assignment, and we're kind of hit with a pretty significant disappointment.
That's one way to put it. Yeah.
An unplanned diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Would you be willing to just share how that kind of came about, and how walking with the Lord, looking for delight in Him, maybe has sustained you?
Yeah. So I started out my assignment with Encompass beginning of 2023. And so my first year was just a lot of, okay, what does this look like? Getting to know people and how it works, and what does it mean to actually do ministry in France, which is my home turf. Anyway, so there are a lot of questions, a lot of working through things. And the first year is just hard. That's all there is to it. Even if I have the advantage of knowing the language and things, but it's just hard. And so in my mind, it was okay, got through the first year. Year 2 is going to be better. Year 2,
I'm looking for the delight.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
It's coming.
And we can work with it. I now know people, and I've got, getting a grip on different things. And so I was headed to, so basically I was visiting all the people, all my colleagues, all the people in the field, basically, in their different countries, trying to understand their context. And then trying to figure out what they need and how can either I help or resource them in different ways. And so I had done, I think I had seen almost everybody, and I was headed for my last visit to Western Asia, and ended up I wasn't feeling super well. And so ended up going to the doctors. Anyway, long story short, ended up in the hospital for about a week, trying to figure out what's going on. And then, I guess a couple weeks later, then I was diagnosed with cancer, which came out of nowhere. And
it wasn't prolonged illness. It was
at all.
Just kind of something
within basically 2 or 3 weeks, it just kind of hit. And so it's peritoneal and ovarian cancer, which is that's typical apparently. It's just very sudden, and there's no way to really diagnose it ahead of time, unfortunately, which is one of the big issues with it. So that definitely just came out of nowhere, and even the type of cancer that it is, typically is it, they find it in women who are 60, 65 plus, and so that's why. It doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, and we're just, to me, it was just a complete shock. I was you never expect it by any means, but even less, I don't have the profile for it in a sense, and even when they, at the hospital, they were asking me all these questions, did you have this, did you have this, did you have, this symptom, blah, 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 and I'm no, I didn't. And it's not because I'm not, I'm completely dissociated from my body or whatever. It wasn't there. And then suddenly it was. And so then it's when you're, I worked really hard to be able to be in this role. And I was, anyway, it was a long process. And so then I felt it was just why have I been just stopped mid-flight, God, what the heck is really kind of what it comes down to. And so definitely a curveball. like we have more information now, and genetics plays into it and different things. So it's semi-explained medically, but yeah. And so it was. I mean, it still is, a struggle just to wrestle with it, and not necessarily the why, I guess. Why me? Why cancer? Why, all these things. I was never like upset with that. It was more, why are you stopping me? Why are you limiting me when, like, I had all this ministry planned and it wasn't,
you literally opened this door.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here.
Why is it to stop me now? Yeah. And so, and obviously, like, it's been ongoing conversations with the Lord of, him, I think, showing me in different ways, like, I am not stopping you by any means. I'm opening other doors that you didn't know were there. And, like, they're hard ones, but he's doing just incredible things, and things that, like, I could have never done, and like, and I think part of it is he's not asking me to, and he was not asking me to before that. And I think it's just showing me too of how much I think I'm a strategic thinker. I'm a planner. And so, like, in my mind, it was all set. I was going to do this, and you have to.
It's a good plan.
Yeah.
I mean, people who are strategic planners don't make bad plans.
Right? I mean, try not to. Yeah. But then it was just him reminding me, like, I do the planning. And ministry is not doing things for me without me. It's watching me do what I do, and me bringing you alongside to watch with me and to participate. But also a very gentle, but not so gentle reminder of, I don't need you, but I enjoy you, and I enjoy having you alongside me. Mm-hmm. And so I've had kind of different pictures in my mind of, like, what that looks like and things. And one of them was just like, Jesus gently, being like, no, you don't need to be on, so I use I'm not a American football.
You say whatever you want about sports, I'll just nod.
I don't know anything about American football, I'll just put that out there. Apparently we're a Steelers family, but that's about it. Like, I don't, nothing else. But anyway, so rugby is a little more familiar to me.
Got nothing.
To some extent. Yep. But anyway, I know people tackle people. That's all I know. But so,
it's violent.
Yeah,
I know that.
That's what it comes down to. And I felt like God was just, like, pulling me from the field, and being like, come sit on the bench next to me. Mm-hmm. Like, you've been tackled, right? And it's been violent. And you got hurt. And I know that. But just come on and sit. Like, I'm not benching you. I'm letting you kind of sit and rest. And, like, watch the field. Look what's happening. Other people are stepping in. Like, your colleagues are getting tackled, but you can be there to support them in a different way, and like, but I have the game planned out. I know who wins. Like, we win. Like, it's already done. So just watch the game play out, and so it's a different stance. And it's one that I'm probably not used to. And everybody likes to be the helper instead of the helped. Yeah. And so it was just a very strong learning curve for me as well in different instances. But yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know much about rugby either. So we're going to just go with an illustration that we know nothing about. But just what you were sharing, I mean, I have a preferred position on the field.
Yeah.
And then I have, and we talked about this a little bit before, I have other positions that I've been asked or invited to play in, and I'm like, I don't want to play there. I don't know that position. I don't know how to appropriately help or support or get to the end goal from that position. And even times on the sidelines or on the bench or in other things, still that connection with the picture of the coach who has all of the game plan mapped out. And to submit and yield to that if he has placed me in a different position for that season, the end goal and strategy is actually for not just my good, but for the benefit of the whole game.
Yep.
And what we can learn on the sidelines closer to the coach. Where we can hear how he's calling plays. And we can see how he's arranging and be in that proximity, as opposed to sometimes you're out in the field and you're like, what was that?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, like.
Yep, you're just charging. Like, you're just charging ahead. Yes.
I love that we're like, we know rugby. I don't know what other sport we could possibly be thinking of. I'm putting all of them in my mind.
Divine intervention.
A game. A spiritual game of sorts.
Yes.
Take it for what it is. But I love that you mentioned this idea of not working for. I had been facilitating a workshop at the national conference, and the kind of proposition of the workshop was, how is your relationship with Jesus? This idea that we often talk about, even personally, even to the Lord or for the Lord, and not with our Savior and with our friend. And you mentioned it, like, he enjoys you being there with him. That's a delight. But this idea that relational language can change everything. And so one of the things I was encouraging was, like, how do we do this? How do we change our language around our relationship with Christ, which is real and intimate and unique and active and true, and yet as we talk about it, like, we have a common friend that is in the room. We have a common master and Lord and Savior that we're in a relationship with. So what kind of language can we use? So these are just some questions that I've come up with to try to help get at not just what have you been learning in Scripture, but what have you and Jesus been up to lately in this season? What have you and Jesus been doing?
Sitting on the bench. No, which ends up being my couch a lot of the time. But I think part of what I'm learning is just noticing the little things and the big things, but where he is already at work. He doesn't, he doesn't need us. There are places in the world, in the middle of the desert, where people see and hear Jesus without any other human being around. So it's like, if he can do that, then, what is he, he's present and working wherever we are. And so in my life, what does that look like? And I've just seen, I have been ministered to so powerfully through my non-believer friends that it's ridiculous. It's like, and just like those things, or kind of coincidences that can't be coincidences of the right thing, the right word, the right person at the right moment, or things like that, or just, I think, I was used to, so for my first year of ministry, I traveled a lot, and I was used to going places and seeing people and going out. And I think through this past year, between being diagnosed, I was basically stuck at home for a while. I could hardly walk for a few months, And so for me, that was...
And in more isolation than just being at home.
Exactly, yeah. But that's where, God also kicked in, is that then he brought people to me. And so I had they didn't coordinate this, but I had a relay of friends just come and stay with me a week or two at a time, because everybody can pretty much work from home now to some extent. So they were working from my office. And then, and just things like that. And they didn't coordinate it, and they're not believers. And so it's not this planned out thing for them, but it's just God just showing me too, I'm taking care of you, and I'm providing for what you need. And right now, you need your people, And so just, I think, and I feel sometimes, and Jesus is on my couch sitting right next to me, nudging me,
look what I did.
Yeah.
Look what I did there. See who I brought?
And people would text me oh, so who's coming next? And I was I don't know, nothing's planned. And then an hour later, I have something, so actually I have some free time. Can I come down? And sure, the bedroom's free, you can come whenever you want. And so, yeah, I think just those things, my people in Encompass have been incredibly supportive and have been willing to work with me as well as, so I can't do the same things I used to do. I have, energy limits, I can't travel as much. what does that look like, and what can I still do? How can I still serve? And they've been very willing to work with me, and God has just like opened doors in incredible ways with my local church, who is also willing to, I'm like, I can't give anybody any guarantees at this point of, how I'll be feeling, what I'll have the energy for. But he just provided a lot of different opportunities, and so, I've been able to work with like our young adults, who, like, I'm not a youth pastor profile either. I don't do like water slides and,
Youth ministry wasn't one of your classes at university?
It was not, yeah. So again, in my mind, I have all these things. It's like, well, I can't do young adults. Like, I don't know. I'm not like that fun, person. But actually, the group that we have, they just
Are
need.
they not fun?
Yeah, they're awesome.
Oh. I'm not fun. They're not fun. It works.
They have fun amongst themselves, but then they need people for like the deep questions, and I can do that. I mean, I like one-on-one conversations. I like deeper questions. Like if my inclination of if you spend more than 10 minutes with me is like, how is your soul? How are you doing?
Yeah.
Which people find intrusive, but so I've learned. But anyway, with that group, it works really well. So just to say, like, I think it's noticing.
Yeah.
The small things, the big things, trying to see the big picture, and at the same time also just learning like just all those verses about doing today, not worrying about tomorrow, for me is very real, because I'm still in ongoing treatment, and so I don't know what I'll feel like tomorrow, and I don't know what I'll be capable of doing tomorrow, but God knows. He has a plan, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's not about what I can do or can't do. It's about, am I walking with him daily? Am I sitting with him daily? Am I relying on him to open the doors that he wants me to walk through?
And I love this picture. We're going to go back to the sports picture. I'm making things up, literally. I love that you brought this up. But this picture of kind of being on the bench next to the coach, and then continuing to describe how you're still available to be put in. Within the local church. Okay, maybe this isn't global missions now, but this is still the mission of Christ. So it looks a little bit different. And yet that picture of like, I might only be able to be out on the field just this one day this week, or and that we have a Savior who sits and says, she's getting tired, I'm going to bring her back, let her rest, let her sit, and that the community and the body of Christ fills in those gaps and those spaces so that the work of the Great Commission can continue to go forward. Like, I don't know that sometimes we see those until we have conversations and talk through and kind of synthesize some of the beauty of that story, that the diagnosis in maybe one way kind of took you out for a season, but it clearly didn't. It clearly hasn't sidelined you.
Yeah.
But there might be days where it feels like I don't know how long I'll have to kind of wait until that next opportunity. But for many of us, I think that's a picture, though, too, of how sometimes we can feel like those moments when we're kind of pulled off the field for whatever reason. Maybe even because we're not playing fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we could take the analogy a lot of but can feel more like punishment or like a timeout. When it's intended to be a time of nearness and closeness and proximity with the Lord and rest and a water break and some electrolytes and to get off your feet for a minute, maybe take off your shoes, like, and to get back onto the field and from a different perspective. And I love that is what is happening. I hope that you can see that is what God is doing in your life and in your ministry. I hope that others can maybe hear that and kind of see that same connection. I wish we had more and more that we could talk about, and if we get another opportunity to sit and chat, the work, the theology of work. I would love to pick your brain more about that too. But I want to just close out our time together. You love food.
Yes.
And we had talked briefly about the delight of the Lord.
Amen.
Maybe the delight of food, a way God gives us moments of delight. So if delight were a food, what would it be?
Man, I mean, there are too many good things out there.
A food group?
A food group. Probably breakfast.
Oh.
I guess I don't know if that's an entire group, but breakfast is my favorite meal. There's everything in breakfast.
Describe French breakfast, though.
Okay.
Is it different?
Yes.
Croissants.
Yes. Yeah, croissant. Yep. I mean, that's just like coffee and a croissant and you're set. It's amazing. But because I'm in the States, then so French toast isn't actually French. So I'm
French
enjoying.
toast is good though. It is a delight.
It's a delight. So I'm enjoying French toast. Anything with peanut butter. We don't get peanut butter in France much. Like a little bit now, but it's not a thing. So like dark chocolate with peanut butter is amazing.
Did you visit the Wilbur's factory?
I did not, but
we are in Lidditz, Pennsylvania at the time of this. You should visit the Wilbur's factory.
So yeah, but there are a lot of good foods out there. So I think it's depending on where I am. Yeah, but in the States, dark chocolate, peanut butter does the trick.
Now, can you make a croissant?
Yeah, no, it's not worth it. No, because
not when you have access to them.
It takes about 6 hours, and it's ridiculous when you can buy it for less than €1 in any bakery, and it's delicious. There are just things that are made to be bought.
Yep. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. We could make it ourselves or we could buy it, but the delight of having someone else prepare something to enjoy. Thank you, Elise, very much for the conversation.
Thank you.
And blessings upon your life and your ministry.
Thank you so much.
And we'll leave in the notes under the podcast ways to contact you, ways to connect with you, and the missions work that you are doing, and to keep tabs on what God is doing in your life. So
thank you so
much.
Thank you for joining us for today's conversation, and a special thank you to our sponsor, Charis Women. Charis Women knows that the contributions of women go far beyond Sunday morning. Whether it's in the home, in the workplace, in the church, and to the ends of the earth, women matter to the mission of Christ. And Charis Women exist to connect and equip women who love and serve our Lord Jesus. Through women's conferences, training classes, community cohorts, and more. Check out all that Charis Women has to offer by visiting their website at www.chariswomen.com or email me directly at jav@chariswomen.com. We are so excited to see how the Lord works beyond Sunday morning. And we'll talk again soon.